Welcome to the Business Leadership Series, where we engage with leaders who are making an impact on their worlds and who want to share their knowledge and experience for your personal and professional growth. The following interview is designed to inspire you to become the best leader you can be. Your host, Derek Champagne, is the founder and CEO of the Artist Evolution, a full-service agency building successful brands, marketing tools, and campaigns, and also the author of the best-selling book, Don't Buy a Duck. And now, let's begin today's Leadership Series interview.
Welcome to the Business Leadership Series, where our goal is to inspire you to become the best leader that you can be. We've got a great guest today. We've got Matt Miller. He is the president and founder of School Spirit Vending. Matt, thanks for being our guest today.
Derek, thanks for having me on, man. I'm excited to be here.
You've got an interesting background, starting with 9 years of a career as an Air Force pilot. Thank you for your service. And tell me a little bit about your background, if you want to start just with your personal journey and then how you got to where you are today.
So I grew up in the Chicago area, and when I got nearing the end of my high school career, I didn't quite know what I wanted to do, but had a friend of my dad's who introduced me to the Air Force Academy. And the one goal that I had was to go to school away from home and just kind of get out on my own and do new things. So fortunately, I had kind of done the right things along the way to where I was an ideal candidate for the Academy. And so I was accepted and entered in the class of 1989 in July of 85. Went to the Academy, was medically qualified to fly. Even though I never really had aspirations to be a pilot, I found out that if I didn't want to fly airplanes and was medically qualified to do so, that I had to talk to the 3-star and explain to him why I didn't want to be a pilot. So I literally became a pilot because I didn't want the FaceTime with a general.
Wow. So what were you flying?
For the first, we've got a year of pilot training. I went through that in Lubbock, Texas, and then I was asked to come back and be an instructor pilot in the T-38, which is a little supersonic tandem trainer that the Air Force uses in the second half of a year's worth of pilot training. So I flew the T-38 for 5 years there in Lubbock, and then moved out to Dover, Delaware, and was a C-5 transport pilot for 3 years. My commitment to Uncle Sam was up in February of 98, and I opted to leave. Most of my peers went on to the airlines, but I didn't like the pilot lifestyle. I didn't want to be gone from my wife and my young son at the time, and really thought that I could do a lot better in the for-profit world. And so I made a complete and total leap of faith and jumped off into something that I had no experience in corporately, first working in the medical sales industry and then in the advertising industry. And along the way, I figured out in the military, and one of the reasons why I got out is I didn't like being told what to do and thought that in the corporate world it might be better. And I found out that I had more freedom in the corporate world, but I was still being told what to do and had others dictating really my future, and I didn't like that. So I started doing some stuff on the side. We had taken a big pay cut out of the military to enter the private sector. And so that, coupled with the fact that I had an experience with my boss in the advertising space where I ended up being number 2 out of the country of sales reps my first full year with the company. And she thought I got accolades a little too quickly and decided to throw 90+% additional quota increase on my numbers the next year. Well, that decision cost my family about $80,000 in commissions and bonuses. Wow. And we went from doing pretty well to being in a big hole. And so I started doing stuff on the side, collecting aluminum cans and selling them back, selling used books online to Amazon and half.com and Alibris and through companies like that. The challenge was, Derek, I had read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right, and I bought into his whole concept of passive income. So as I was doing those things, they helped us get by. They helped us keep the roof over our heads and food on the table. But I was longing to develop a lifestyle and have control over money and my time. So I continued to look for other things. And a good buddy of mine one day mentioned that he and his young daughters had purchased a couple of Gumball machines, and he was teaching them about business, and it was something they could do together, and the girls were making a little bit of money at it. And I remember that conversation. I was like, it's going to take a lot of Gumballs to make a big impact financially on where my family's heading, but the machines do all the selling.
Right.
And so I can maintain my career and continue to do my thing and start a business on the side that over time, if I continued to do what I needed to do, could significantly alter the future and put the control of our finances into our hands instead of somebody else.
Right. So tell me about that transition. Tell me, how did that journey go to where you are today with School Spirit Vending?
Well, man, it's wild. I didn't have any money at that time. I had about $100 that I could start a business with. And about half of that went to ebooks on Amazon, teaching myself the vending business. And then I found a used candy and gumball machine on eBay it was like 32 or 36 bucks. And I bought that from a guy across Houston. I didn't have to pay for shipping. And never forget, loaded up my two oldest kids in my 98 Honda Accord one Saturday morning. We drove about an hour and 15 minutes across Houston and picked that machine up, learned a little bit from that guy, and found out he had 19 other machines that he was willing to hold on to if I would come back and pay for them as I had money over the next several months.
Wow.
So the next Monday after work, I went out and started knocking on doors, figuring out the whole vending business. And a couple of days later, I had my first location. It was a karate studio in the suburb of Kingwood, where we lived at the time on the northeast side of Houston. And that one led to another 5 locations because it was a small regional chain. And the head of the one location spread the word to the others. And before long, they all wanted a machine in the studio. And just kind of built it from there. I literally bootstrapped this thing from ground zero and built it primarily on cash flow along the way, just because we didn't have any extra money. And so there was a lot of patience involved in that process, but I learned a lot along the way. And one of the nice things about it was that there was never really any risk in what we were doing, because the equipment that I was buying, as an example, I could have turned around and sold those machines for twice what the guy that sold me mine to somebody else. He was just wanting to get rid of them. And so, even though it was a slow process, there wasn't ever really any risk involved because we couldn't afford any risk with our situation financially. Well, we got to 07 and 08. I had about 125 locations or so around Houston at that point, had ventured into toys and temporary tattoos and stickers and that type of thing as well. And when the economy tanked, the revenue numbers dropped off a cliff. And so I was trying to figure out what I could do to increase my revenue, and had 4 young kids come knocking on my door selling me stuff for the local schools over the span of a couple of weeks. And I had kids about the same age. These kids were not accompanied by a parent. I had never met them before. And it made me really uncomfortable that these kids were essentially being door-to-door salespeople for the local school, and thought, well, maybe I can figure out a way to help the schools get some of these kids off the street. And since the kids are in the schools 5 days a week and 9 months out of the year, potentially figure out a way to resolve my income disparity and the ups and downs of what was occurring in the economy by having machines in the locations where all the kids are, 9 months out of the year. And so came up with the idea of customizing spirit stickers for those machines and personalizing them for the schools, and then placing a machine there, and it would become a passive income source for our team, and a passive fundraising source for the schools, requiring no volunteers or whatever. So that was kind of the birth of School Spirit Vending as we know it today.
I love the idea, and we've got a 5 and 7-year-old, so we're just getting to that candy bar, raising money for the teams mode. Love the idea that you had a need for your own family. You looked at reinventing the school fundraising and vending industry. I think that's really cool. So tell me more about that. Tell me how that grew. I mean, you went from 20 years in the military and the corporate world, and then took your first chance on a gumball machine. I love the story of entrepreneurs. entrepreneurs, I know a lot of those listening can relate to that exact different experience, but still having the bootstrapping their way to having the success that they have today. Tell me how that continued to evolve. I mean, I know you're all over the place now. You're in my area, Bentonville, working with clients and other locations. Tell me how that continued to grow.
Well, first off, Derek, I just want to say that this is an obvious progression, right? I mean, quote unquote, America's finest Air Force pilot academy grad. You know, the next obvious progression is corporate to Gumball machine guy, right? I mean, that's what everybody would project the career path to be. You know what I'm saying?
Classic story.
But I joke about that because too many people take what they do too seriously. They hold on too tight to the training they got in college or whatever they did along the way that they've got experience in. And I encourage them not to do that. Okay. They may be able to do well in what they're doing and continue to do so, but there may come a time in your life where you've got to flush everything that you've done in the past, all that quote unquote time that you've invested or money invested to do something completely different. And don't be scared about that. Just because I'm not flying anymore and haven't used a lick of my degree in history from college doesn't mean that time in my life was not very, very valuable and foundational in where I am today. I just don't fly airplanes or, have a career in history. But that doesn't mean that hasn't helped me succeed.
For our listeners that maybe are hesitant or maybe aren't 1,000% satisfied with where they're at, or they know a change needs to happen at some point, how do you make that transition though, where you leave what you know? I mean, for many of us, that's kind of an unsettling and scary thought.
Well, you got to understand. I was telling a buddy the other day, someday I'm going to write a book and it's going to be called 13 Years to Overnight Success. It was a process, and I didn't just jump off a cliff. I mean, I kept working my career for years and did this on the side. There was a time here, in fact, I just got a Facebook memories update here a month or so ago from 7 years ago, and it was a picture of some pizza boxes at Pizza Hut because I needed additional money to seed and feed my company at that time. And I was literally working full-time in the advertising space, was delivering pizzas at night, and putting together a business in local area businesses with the vending machines I had there, and starting this thing with schools, with School Spirit Vending. I was burning the candle at both ends, man. But here's the thing. I didn't risk anything in doing that except for some time. I didn't leave my corporate gig and all of that until we were very, very, very firmly established, probably longer than many people would be comfortable doing. But the reality was I didn't take this transition lightly. But once I knew that it was real, once I knew that we had a foundation that we could live off of no matter what happened, then it just made sense. Wow. So there wasn't anything really risky involved. But I wasn't tied to being a pilot all my life. I wasn't tied to being an ad guy or whatever. I mean, the reality is there's other things more important, and I just didn't get myself all wrapped up in my personal identity tied into what I do. And, talk about one of the biggest, most humbling experiences I've ever had was going in and asking for a job delivering pizzas, given the background that I had. Wow. And then delivering pizzas in the goofy little shorts and the shirt and the Pizza Hut hat and all that, and showing up at friends' homes in a very affluent suburb of Houston, and them not knowing that I was doing that on the side and having to deliver pizzas to them. I mean, man, talk about a gut punch in a way. But here's the thing. I wasn't doing it for them. I was doing it for me. And I learned along the way that not to care what other people think, because they're not thinking about you anyway. So go do what you need to do, put your blinders on, and do what is best for you and your family, and things will work out. And over time, the people who are really supportive and really care about you and what you do, it's not going to matter to them what you do.
I love the stories of working hard in adversity and overcoming and the things that you're sharing. I think it gives you a great perspective and allows you to have a platform to build off of like you're doing now. and now you're able to help others in a big way. And I think that's really exciting. There's nothing wrong with people that can make a quick switch and it comes easy to them. But I've had those personal experiences as well, where you are taking on extra jobs and a second and a third, but you have a vision. And, there's not a whole lot that's going to dissuade you from going towards that vision to take care of your family and to build something that's bigger for you.
Right.
Tell me about helping professionals develop secondary income streams.
So there's a lot of professionals out there just like me that are living a life of quiet desperation because they feel stuck, but they don't know how to do anything else. They don't know any other way. And one of the beauties of our program and our franchise system is the fact that our business fits into the cracks of people's lives. I've already explained to you in the audience what my life was like when I got this thing started. And so people on our franchise team can put it together in the same way. If somebody has a couple of days a month that they can do some work in and out of schools while school's in session, they can put this thing together. And it took me several years, but trust me, I didn't leave my high-paying corporate gig to make less money on my own.
Right.
I was making significantly more selling stickers in schools than I was as an ad executive. And we've got person after person after person on our franchise team today that is doing the same thing. Now, some of them don't choose to go, the solopreneur route and exclusively become an entrepreneur over time. That's okay. I've got some folks on the team, they just see this as a supplement. They've got a bunch of schools they work in and out of. It helps them pay their bills. It helps them put more money away towards college or towards retirement. Gives them the opportunity to maybe make a trip or two a year that they otherwise couldn't afford. So we've got folks kind of at all different levels and perspectives on our team. And because there's no pressure coming from the top to perform, they've got the ability to put this thing together at whatever pace they want, because it's my goal that this be a blessing to the families that we work with. And the only way it's a blessing to them is if they call the shots and if they decide on how quickly or slowly they're going to grow, and we just help them any way that we can.
That's exciting. And to have some passive income streams, we all dream about those. I mean, I love what I do. I love my business. It's definitely not passive. There's a lot of hands-on work, which I'm sure yours is work as well. Tell me about multi-generational business development. Tell me about a little bit more about how you've seen some success stories with families or with solo entrepreneurs who are doing this.
One of the things when I got this started, I said, you know what we're going to do is I'm going to take all the things that I loved about the military and the corporate world, and we're going to keep those things. But everything that I hated about them, we're going to get rid of. And one of the things that I disliked was the fact that my family was never really welcome. And so I'd go do my work thing, and they'd do their thing at home. And then at some point in time, once I was done with work, we could spend a little bit of time together. And I wanted to do something that my family could grow and work on together and teach my kids entrepreneurship and leadership and communication skills and all those types of things along the way, just in conjunction with us running our business. And we've encouraged that with all of our franchises as well. And so we've got several families now that mom and dad got started as their kids were, in their teen years. Their kids got old enough to, 18 or a little bit older to get started in business themselves and now have their own franchise, many cases in other parts of the country. And they're following mom and dad's footsteps because of what they learned when they were, helping mom and dad out to begin with. So it's really pretty cool to, to see that and to be a part of that. And that's what I really get a kick out of most today, is just seeing the light bulb come on with these families, seeing their kids get involved and to thrive in an environment where they're all working together towards a common goal. And, I used to teach people how to fly, and that's kind of where I got my kick. Today, I teach people entrepreneurship, and I get it from there.
So who's a good fit for this type of business?
Anybody who wants more than what they've got right now. That's the biggest thing. I mean, we've got folks from all walks of life, all ages and backgrounds that are franchisees on our team today. They have to be willing to go out and learn some new things. They have to be willing to learn how to talk to people. and share what we're doing. And they, of course, have to, either themselves or their spouse or a combination of the two, have to have, like I said earlier, a few days a month that they can spend in and out of schools, whether it be vacation time or whether it be, finding other ways to potentially work in and out of them. But if they can do that and have, some income to get a franchise started, then there's potential for them to be wildly successful in what we do. Our company by design is at the bottom of the cost structure for the most part as far as franchises are concerned. A typical franchise costs in America today on average about $125,000 to start. Our franchise right now is I think around $17,000 to get started. 17 to 23,000, depending on if somebody wants one protected territory or two. We've done that intentionally because we want folks and families to have an opportunity to participate if they've got a dream to have a business and want somebody to literally use a proven system on their behalf, for success instead of having to go out and figure it all out on their own.
So tell me about school fundraising. You're the expert on this with what you're doing. What's going on with schools? Do they have shrinking budgets? How are you helping schools as well?
Man, I have not walked into a single school that doesn't have a financial need.
Right.
And one of the biggest challenges in today's economy is the fact that oftentimes both parents are having to work just to make ends meet. Mm-hmm. So the number of volunteers that are available to do that fundraising in the school becomes less and less every day because there's less moms or whatever that are available to help out because they got to be out working 9 to 5 as well. So schools have the fundraising need, but the resources in people and in volunteers continues to drop. And so we step in and we help them, and we kind of act as a surrogate volunteer with our program. They give us permission to set up in the school, and then we literally do all the work. And the only thing they've got to do is cash a check on a monthly basis. Wow. So we're offering them free money. It ends up being a win-win-win all around. And the schools have the ability to make money passively. Our franchise team has the ability to make money passively. And, it ends up being beneficial to everybody in the process.
So tell me about the product itself. Are you doing custom mascots? And what is it that you're offering unique to the school?
We do custom mascot stickers for the schools, but then we also, put whatever the kids are into in the machine, NFL stickers or, Star Wars was huge for us, right around the first of the year. We've got a lot of proprietary products that we developed from the ground up specifically for our audience that we've learned over the years the kids absolutely love. And so we have a good combination of a bunch of different things. And in the process, there's always something new for the kids to get excited about. And there's always something new for our operators, to derive revenue from.
So let me ask you, for you, in your personal life and your professional life, how do you achieve balance between work and between family? And you've got a lot going on. You're a busy guy. You've got the successful business. What does balance look like for you? How do you get there?
Well, the reality is, first off, that there are many times in a business where you're going to be out of balance. Mm-hmm. And I think some people have the misperception that you can have it all. And I've found you can't. So there's going to need to be times where you're going to have to sacrifice one thing for another. And there was a time where, I didn't have nearly as much time with my family as I would have liked. But we had a big dream. And in order to make passive income, it takes, a lot of effort because you're making money in a very special way that very few people around you even understands, let alone makes income that way. But if you're willing to work and if you're willing to put things together over time, then you have more options. Today, I make my own schedule. I work out of the house. I've got a home office that we built in the breezeway of our home here a couple of years ago. So I have my own space to do what I need to do when I need to. But otherwise, I'm home the majority of the time, unless I'm on the road helping out a franchisee or like this last week earlier this week, I was at Social Media Marketing World in San Diego for several days, learning about the latest in social media and how to promote and how to help our franchise team grow their businesses utilizing the different tools that are out there in the social media space. But otherwise, I make the trips that I want to make. I spend the time doing what I want to do and have a lot of control that way. Because to me, success is ultimately a control over time and a control over money. And thankfully, we've kind of gotten to a point where we've got control over both of them. And in the process, we are much more in balance today and have a lot more flexibility to do the things that we like to do. I'll give you a great example. Both my daughters play volleyball, and I'm the only dad that has made it to every volleyball game. They're the ones. I'm the one that they've asked to be the scorekeeper because I'm the one that can be there all the time. Wow. Why? Because I can now make their games a priority, whereas the past, my career had to be the priority, and if I could fit their games in, then I did all that I could. Well, now I've got total control over that. My daughter is thinking about going to Liberty University out in Lynchburg, Virginia here starting in August. Well, we're going to make a three-day trip out there here in a couple of weeks to Liberty. And I didn't need to ask anybody if I could have off. I just cleared my calendar for those 3 days and bought the airline tickets and we're off. Having that kind of flexibility. I love doing work overseas missionally, and we do some work with a group called Kids Across Cultures, where we do water projects and provide clean water, primarily over in southwest China. I've been able to make multiple trips myself in the last few years and have taken my 2 oldest kids on trips with me, so they've gotten that experience as well. I mean, man, I just so believe, Derek, that so many of us spend the best hours of the best days of the best years of our lives working just to put food on the table, just to make a dollar bill, and that if people would be more focused and really start to look critically at how they derive income and find a way to do it differently, that they don't have to be destined to a life of doing that until they decide to retire.
Right. So with all you've accomplished, you've got an impressive career of starting with being a pilot like you were, but what's your proudest accomplishment?
I would say my proudest accomplishment is the fact that when we finally found our first event that we could promote what we were doing, trade show, that we could promote what we were doing to the schools. And the very first show we had, showing up really knowing nothing about what was going on in the schools, aside from the test school that we had for several months that had done really well. To see the schools just absolutely get excited about what we do. And to see out of that first event 10 schools that were like, man, this just makes total sense. We need to do this with very little prodding from us. To see the concept be validated in that way, man, I mean, little did I know we'd be in 2,000 schools today, a franchise in 30 states, looking to grow into Canada in the fall and all those kind of things. I mean, I couldn't even envision that. But back then I was just looking to help pay the bills. But to have validation on an idea after trying so many things along the way, and then be able to act on that validation and to make it into something much bigger over time.
Wow. So how many machines total?
We've got about 2,000 machines out there today.
So from one Gumball machine to 2,000.
Yes.
So what motivates you?
More than anything today, it's helping other families realize their dreams just like we've been able to realize some of ours, and to show them once again that making money passively and owning a business is not nearly as hard as many people make it out to be, and just providing a system and the tools so that they can succeed in an environment that allows them to do that.
How do you go about, what's your unique perspective on developing and motivating effective business teams?
Well, I think the first thing is the speed of the group is determined by the speed of the leader. And there is nobody that works harder than I do. And as an example, I've got 110 schools of my own.
Wow.
Now, I haven't worked in and out of those schools in a while. I've got route folks that do that today. But I've learned along the way that the only way I can expect people to do something is if I've been willing to do it myself. Mm-hmm. And I have been in the trenches from day one doing exactly what we teach people today how to do. I've been there, done that, got the T-shirt. I've been in, a position financially that, had me being turned down for a payday loan early on for just a couple $100. You don't even need a credit rating for a payday loan, but if you got 3 overdraft charges on your bank statement the month before, you conveniently get turned down. So I've been at that point, and I realize today that God put me through that situation so that I could be an example to people and so that I could relate to where others are coming from.
Right.
And show them the way and show them, hey, listen, I see where you're at. I understand where you're at, but it can be better if you're just willing to stay the course and keep doing what you're doing, and not look at the results every single day, because there's a lot of days where there's going to be setbacks and there's going to be failures and what have you. Right. But if you're willing to stick with it over a period of time and realize this is a marathon, not a sprint, you too can come out the other side having a lifestyle and making more money than you ever thought possible for you and your family, and having options that you never dreamed were possible before.
So now that you've achieved this level of success again, how do you maintain focus with all the different options that you have, and what keeps you focused on your core vision and the goals that you have?
I've got a personal coach, a guy by the name of Aaron Walker. I was at a Dave Ramsey Entree Leadership event here about a year or 2.5 years ago. Ran into Aaron at the time. He was transitioning out of his previous business that he had sold, trying to figure out what he was going to do next. And he was actually one of Dave Ramsey's best friends, having been one of his very first advertising clients on the radio 20 years ago. Anyway, I met Aaron. He started a business called View from the Top. Initially with coaching and then with mastermind groups and that type of thing. And I hired him as a coach about 20 months ago now. Best decision I ever made. In fact, much of the growth that we've seen is because of his direction. Wow. And him looking at where I was, learning and understanding me over time by listening and through our weekly conversations, and then giving me guidance based on his 30-plus years of business expertise and his lens that he views the world that is very, very different than mine. Wow. And so I've got a guy that I talk with. In fact, I talked with him this morning for my weekly call, and somebody that is able to keep me on track and to call me out when I need to be called out about stuff. Has been probably one of the best decisions I've ever made. And the return that I've seen for the quote-unquote expense that I pay him every month has been huge over the last, going on 2 years.
That's exciting. And I got to meet Aaron for the first time a few weeks ago. He's going to be a guest on the show, I think, next month. So I was very impressed with him. And yeah, he's one of Dave Ramsey's best friends. That's an amazing coach for you to have as a resource for your business.
Well, my team and the guys that have been around for a while can look at, okay, where were we a year and a half ago and where are we now and what has happened just in the last year, and see, Aaron all over it because of the things that have changed. Not that things were bad before, but we've just, the vision for the future is so much bigger today because he's helped me see what we have and the value of it. And so anyway, it's pretty cool. But to have a guy like that, I've also got a virtual personal trainer, a guy by the name of Jeff McMahon. He's he's out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Pat Flynn actually introduced me to him. And Jeff keeps me on track as far as working out. And I do a FaceTime workout with him once a week, and then he sends me workouts on a daily basis. and I've got somebody to be accountable to there.
Wow.
Et cetera.
When you achieve this level of success, how do you avoid the fat cat syndrome when we get comfortable and we have our needs met and we're not physically hungry anymore, right? Those survival instincts that keep us getting up early and motivate us. How do you keep from getting fat cat syndrome when you get to this level of success?
It's hard. It really is.
Yeah.
Because you oftentimes aren't quite as hungry as what you once were. Right. But for me, it went from survival to begin with to making some money to getting out of debt to where now it's more about being significant and creating something much, much bigger than me. We sell stickers, but a lot of what we do, Derek, behind the scenes is what I'm most passionate about. As an example, the little folders that the stickers come vended out of our machines in that provide the rigidity for the mechanical mechanism to shoot the stickers out. We print on those. And I started a comic book company a couple of years ago because I was inspired to read when I was a young kid by reading comic books and saw that the kind of stuff that was available to kids today and the adult themes and everything getting darker and darker, and realized that it wasn't something, that I would have my kids comfortable reading today. So I hired a couple of young guys, and we've got a comic book series. And those characters, Marlin and Percy, who are a couple of apes that want to be superheroes, they're part of just about every vend that comes out of our machines.
Wow.
And we're utilizing them to teach principles and good habits and that type of thing to inspire kids to read. We've written 5 full-length comics that are available online and on Kindle or in ebook form. Number 6 is just about done, and we also have a children's novel that we just finished that'll be on Amazon and on the marlinandpercy.com site shortly. And so I've been able to do that to hopefully help some kids get excited about reading. We started something called Inspire a Kid, which is very, very, very early in its infancy. But our goal is to teach kids, principles and life lessons and once again, to tie all that into our machines. My goal is for little Johnny or little Susie to spend 50 cents on a sticker, but to get $5 or $10 worth of value out of that purchase. Mm-hmm. And because I'm in the position I am today, and my family's basic needs are taken care of, I now have the ability to shift my focus purely from the almighty dollar to doing things that long-term have a much bigger impact on society and hopefully on generations to come.
So tell me, what's next for you? Anything new and exciting that you haven't accomplished or done yet that's on the horizon for you?
I think more than anything, it's continuing to navigate the franchise side of things. And really, my goal is in the next couple of years that we're in all 50 states in the U.S.
Wow.
And, there are thousands of schools out there that we're not in yet that once they know about our program, we will be in. So to continue to focus on putting together a business team, a team of franchisees that's as passionate about kind of what we're doing as I am, so that we can continue to grow this thing. We've got over 1 million kids that have access to what we do every day today. And at the rate we're growing on the franchise side, it's not going to be long before that's 5 and 10 million kids. Well, there's a lot of responsibility there. And so to continue to focus on growth so that we can impact and have influence on more and more kids as we go, I think is what is most exciting to me and is the biggest challenge I see moving forward. That really keeps me going.
Tell me, if someone wants to learn more, first of all, about Marlin and Percy, where do they go to learn more about Marlin and Percy?
It's just Marlin, Marlin, and the word and, Percy, PERCY.com. Or they can look up Marlin and Percy on Amazon, and a bunch of our stuff is available in ebook form there as well.
I will be looking that up and sharing that with my kids for sure.
Derek, I'll send you a copy of some of the stuff. I'd love to forward it on.
Awesome. I appreciate that. If our listeners want to learn more about you, do they visit ssvbusiness.com?
Yeah, if they go to ssvbusiness.com, they can get some more information. And what I'd love to do, if your game is, give a gift to your audience for whoever's interested. I wrote a short book called Live Your Dreams, the top 10 reasons why you should own a vending business. And if your audience just goes to ssvbusiness.com/leadership series, they can download that ebook for free. It's just 3 pages or so, nothing big, but there's a lot of insights that I never even thought of until I got involved in vending. And I don't think most people see or equate real money in vending because it's just a quarter or 50 cents. And so that ebook, was put together so that people can see the possibilities. And then from there, if they want to talk about the franchise side of things, I'd love to do that. Otherwise, if I can help them in just general vending in any way, with gumballs or whatever, I'd be happy to do so.
Matt, I love your story. I appreciate that generous gift. So our listeners, if you want to learn more, I'm definitely going to visit that. It's ssvbusiness.com/leadership series. And I appreciate you giving that unique offer and free gift to my listeners. Matt, I love your story. I love the American dream of making a change in your career and then pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and going from one small thing and being hungry and lean and building it up and then having purpose to it. Thank you again for sharing your story, and we look forward to continuing to follow you and see the great things that you're doing.
Derek, I appreciate the opportunity, man, and God bless you.
God bless you too, Matt. You have a great day.
You've been listening to the Business Leadership Series, where we engage with leaders who are making an impact on their worlds and who want to share their knowledge and experience for your personal and professional growth. This interview was designed to inspire you to become the best leader you can be. Stop wasting money on marketing and only do marketing that works. Order your copy of Don't Buy a Duck today. If you've ever felt lost, in need of a roadmap, if you ever wanted to get the right folks in the door and dollars in the drawer, you've opened the right book. Order your copy at www.don'tbuyaduck.com today. That's don'tbuyaduck.com.